Breaking news comes from the Middle East. Turkish forces are invading Syria right now. The president just announced the move in a tweet. Recep Tayyip Erdogan says the Turkish armed forces, together with the Syrian National Army, has launched what they call Operation Peace Spring. He says the mission is to prevent the creation of a terror corridor across the southern border and to bring peace to the area. In a second tweet, Erdogan says the operation will neutralize terror threats against Turkey and lead to the establishment of what they call a safe zone. He says that will facilitate the return of Syrian refugees to their homes. Now, he also says Turkey will preserve Syria's territorial integrity and liberate local communities from terrorists. And terrorist is the word the Turks use to refer to the Kurdish forces that control that territory. You might remember the Kurds led much of the fight against ISIS there. American soldiers had been providing a sort of buffer for the Kurds. But as you know, the U.S. president ordered those troops out a few days ago. This is a story with international ramifications, and we've got freelance reporter Rebecca Collard tracking it live from Beirut. What is the latest you're hearing from there, Rebecca?
As you're saying, Suhana, the latest we're hearing is this tweet from the Turkish president basically confirming that this operation has started. There has been buildup for days. We've been seeing these Turkish troops and these Turkish military equipment going towards this border area with Syria. And then also overnight, these fighters from what he's called the Syrian National Army, which are essentially Syrian rebel fighters that first took up arms against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. A couple of hours ago, we heard reports that there was an explosion in Ras Al Ain, which is a town near the border, inside Syria, near the border with Turkey. And now we have this confirmation that this is very much underway. And we also have these pictures I think we can show viewers of these planes actually taking off, these Turkish warplanes taking off in southern Turkey and going to bomb these positions of these Syrian Kurdish forces. So this offensive now, Suhana, very much underway. And what about the defensive? How is Syria responding? Well, that's been really interesting, and I think something that we need to watch in the next few days, Suhana. Until today, we didn't really hear anything from the Syrian government, from the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. What we heard, of course, was international concern and condemnation from rights organizations and also humanitarian organizations, other foreign states saying that they were worried about what this would mean for the Syrian conflict. But we didn't hear anything from the Syrian government, really. Now, we heard a statement this morning carried by state television calling this an aggression and saying that the Syrian government will confront this by all means that are legitimate. Now, Suhana, that's really difficult to know what that's going to mean. Obviously, the Syrian government is no military match for Turkey. They couldn't militarily repel Turkish troops from this area and perhaps don't want that confrontation. At the same time, the other interesting thing to watch, I think, and the other concern, Suhana, is what the Syrian Kurds are going to do. So the Syrian Kurds have played a very interesting role in the conflict in Syria over the last few years. At some points fighting the government forces, at other points, coordinating or at least avoiding them on the battlefield. So I saw a report this morning, Suhana, that said that the Syrian Kurdish forces had actually been trying to talk to Russia to coordinate with Damascus. So right now, all we have is words from Damascus. It seems unlikely at the moment what we're going to see is any sort of troop movements. But if that happens, Suhana, we are going to talk about a much wider and a much more dangerous conflict.
We'll be watching as you are. Thank you, Rebecca. Freelance journalist Rebecca Collard right there in Beirut. Now, the U.S. president has again put out a tweet to justify his move in that part of Syria. There's been fighting in the region between various groups for hundreds of years, Donald Trump says, and the U.S. should never have been there. Now that U.S. soldiers have been moved out, he adds Turkey must take over the captured ISIS fighters that Europe is refusing to have returned. And he ends with this: the stupid, endless wars for us are ending.